I'm Ava, 27 years old, working. My grandfather, who raised me, died 3 months ago. Today, the lawyer opens his will. Visiting with my older sister Emma, my only family, as our parents died in an accident 17 years ago. Since our grandmother's death, Grandpa's health declined. He'd joke about me checking on him, but today's different. Found him in pain, called an ambulance, but he passed away. "Prepare some tea," snapped my sister, disrupting my thoughts. The lawyer's arrival is imminent. Same old, I muttered quietly while putting the kettle on the stove. My sister has always been self-centered. Since her teens, she dyed her hair like it was second nature, hung out with troublemakers, and constantly demanded money without working. Even when she caused trouble, I, being the quiet one, dealt with the fallout while she remained unfazed. Even as an adult, not much seems to have changed. She lacks a stable job and drifts around doing part-time work. I knew she asked Grandpa for money when I wasn't around. It's likely she finds it troublesome, but the inheritance changes the game. "You must be the lawyer. Thanks for coming," I heard my sister's formal voice, signaling the lawyer's arrival. I rushed to fill the teapot with tea leaves and then headed to the door. "Thanks for being here today." I had met the lawyer at the funeral, and his eyes were as warm as my grandfather's. A shiny badge adorned his chest, indicating his profession. After paying respects to my grandfather's portrait, he sipped the tea I provided and presented the will my grandfather had entrusted to him while alive. The message was straightforward. My older sister, Emma, was set to receive $15 million in cash, while I, the younger daughter, would inherit the house and its land. Upon hearing this, my sister couldn't hold back her laughter. $15 million for the older sister, and only an old house for the younger one. How funny. It fits someone as plain as you. "It's not just the house, there's also the land," I retorted. My sister dismissed it with a scoff. "Huh. The value of this land in such a remote place is not impressive. I would have preferred cash. I suppose Grandpa must have favored me after all." I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised. It seems my grandfather wanted me to look after his beloved house and the land where he lived with my grandmother. A house and land. That's quite something, right? Dylan, my boyfriend, was surprised when he heard my story. I disagreed, indicating it's not as amazing as it seems. "Not really, my sister got $15 million in cash. Now that's impressive." Saying it aloud left me with a sense of emptiness, even though I was trying to be humble. Expressing it felt like admitting something. "Wow, she's both gorgeous and wealthy. She's the better off one," remarked Dylan. I gave Dylan a sideways look for his thoughtless comment. Realizing his mistake, he chuckled and said, "Your well-being is more important to me than money, Ava." Dylan and I have been together since I began working. We connected at a social gathering, and being the same age, we hit it off. I introduced him to my grandfather and sister. Even though he hasn't asked me to marry him, I've been pondering the idea of marriage. Today was our first date outdoors, and while we were out, I told Dylan about my family's possessions. Back then, I thought he could be the one I'd marry, but little did I realize that I would later regret that choice. A few days afterward, I found myself at the family home passed down from my grandfather. Initially, my plan was to tidy up and arrange his things. The place was big, but the house was simple. I thought I could manage the job alone. As I looked around, an idea popped into my head. It's close to where I work. Maybe I should move here. The thought of a relaxed life with a cat sounded nice. No rent worries, and even with possible upkeep expenses, I had saved money diligently. Considering the chance of sharing this space with Dylan, I felt a bit awkward and quickly dropped the idea. Eager to start cleaning, I rolled up my sleeves when suddenly a call interrupted my plans. My sister's name flashed on my smartphone screen. "Sis, what's going on?" "Hey, Ava, enjoying yourself all alone in that old house?" My sister seemed to be intoxicated. She always had a unique way of speaking, but today it was particularly noticeable. "You're having a drink in the afternoon, huh?" "It's still early," I remarked with a sigh. She responded with a dramatic sigh, saying, "Oh, you're such a Miss Goody Two-Shoes." I was correct. She had indeed been drinking. Trying to wrap up the conversation swiftly, I replied to my sister's question. "I was considering moving here eventually." "Really? I'm currently enjoying a fancy suite in a luxury hotel," my sister exclaimed in a somewhat exaggerated manner. "Guess who I'm hanging out with at the moment?" I asked. "I don't know." "Not interested," I responded. "Having that kind of mindset might make Dylan not like you," she cautioned. "What?" I exclaimed. Suddenly, Dylan's voice came through the phone. This unexpected interruption caught me off guard, and confusing thoughts swirled in my mind. I tried to dismiss my imagination, but by now an unsettling scenario had taken shape in my head. Caught off guard, huh? My sister's harsh words lingered in my ears. Ever since you introduced me to Dylan, I found him to be quite special. She confidently shared how she became interested in Dylan after our introduction, how she found out where he worked through me, and how she approached him after his work hours. He willingly went along with her and even declared that she was more attractive than me, leaving me in shock. Ava, I'm truly sorry, I finally managed to utter. The next voice I heard was Dylan's, asking me to confirm if it was a mistake. As I struggled to find the right words, he continued, explaining that as a man he felt compelled to seize the opportunity. What? I feel guilty about it, but seriously, who can resist a gorgeous woman with $15 million, right? The way he talked made me feel like he expected me to get it, sucking the emotion out of me. A chill ran through me, as if my blood was draining away. You know what? I don't want a guy like you, I stated. In response, I could hear my sister bursting into laughter in the background. The voice on the phone switched back to my sister, saying matter-of-factly, "Well, that's how it is. From now on, let's not think of ourselves as sisters. I wouldn't want you to contact me just because you're facing financial difficulties." With those words, she ended the call, leaving me flooded with delayed emotions. All I could do was express my feelings through tears. 7 years have passed since then, and now I have a cat on my lap, peacefully sleeping in front of my laptop, purring contentedly. Today is my day off, but there's still some unfinished work from the office. I felt a twinge of guilt, but I needed to move the cat from my lap. As I reached out, my phone began to ring. An unfamiliar number appeared on my smartphone. Thinking it might be work-related, I answered the call without suspicion. Hello? Ava, long time no see. I recognized the person right away and stood still. The way of speaking was clearly my sister Ava's. It's you, Ava, right? I can tell from your first hello. I'm your older sister, after all. It had been 7 years, making Emma 29. I couldn't help but smirk at her consistent way of talking. You haven't changed at all. By the way, I returned home and there's a hotel there now. Did you sell the house? That's not something you need to know. Oh, really? This hotel is so fancy, isn't it? You must have earned a nice amount of money, right? Growing frustrated, I was on the verge of hanging up when she began sharing details about her present circumstances. Emma explained that she had spent her inheritance in just 1 year and was now facing a substantial amount of debt. Even Dylan, the person she's still spending time with, seemed to be overwhelmed by debt. I was left without words. Frankly, I couldn't be any less concerned, so can you lend me some money? Against Emma's loud shouting, I responded calmly. I've always wondered why Grandpa divided his estate that way, but it wasn't until the day you took V away from me and severed ties that I understood. I started speaking slowly, recalling 7 years ago when Dylan ended our relationship. I was devastated. After crying my heart out, I sat in my room in a daze, staring into space, berating myself for being foolish. As I murmured these thoughts, large tears began to spill again. I spotted a painting I made when I was a kid, a gift from my grandfather. He had carefully framed it and displayed it. With shaky hands, I took the painting and softly said, "Grandpa." As waves of memories and a sense of being alone washed over me, tears began to fall. That's when I noticed something falling from behind the frame. I picked it up and found a new piece of notepaper with my name on it. I have fond memories from my childhood when I used to attach notes to the back of a picture frame, exchanging secret messages with my grandfather. It felt like our family's personal journal. Knowing that I would inherit the house, he probably expected me to find one of those notes, and I'm grateful that I did. As I read the letter addressed to Ava, I discovered it was written just before my grandfather's passing. He expressed his belief that I would notice it and mentioned his unusual distribution of the estate. Cash was allocated to my sister, while an old house and land were designated for me. Despite the appearance of favoritism toward my sister, Grandpa clarified that he intended to leave the majority to me, the one who cared for him till the end. It dawned on me that I had misunderstood something. Despite Emma's claims and words that had hurt me deeply, Grandpa valued me more than I had realized. Reading further, I learned about Emma's dissatisfaction with irregular division and her greediness. Apparently, she even took my boyfriend from me. Grandpa admitted in the letter that he arranged the distribution this way to ensure Emma wouldn't pay much attention to my share. He highlighted the increasing value of the land in our area due to ongoing urban development. Although it's not currently worth as much as Emma's $15 million, the letter assured me that the value of the land would surely rise in the future. As I perused this section of the letter, my eyes widened with surprise. Grandpa's words presented me with two choices: either stay in the house if I had a sentimental connection to it, or sell it later for a nice profit as its value increased. His main concern was my happiness. When I shared the contents of the letter with Emma, she clicked her tongue and playfully called me a hag. Having resided in that house for a considerable time, I eventually heeded Grandpa's counsel after my marriage and decided to sell, considering the escalating land value. Emma, feeling vexed, declined to lend me money. Then she made an offer. She said if I wanted, she could return Dylan to me to assist my sister, presenting it as a favorable arrangement. In that moment, something broke inside me, and I had reached my limit. Despite Grandpa looking after her, Emma had not shown any appreciation, and I resented her for it. I proclaimed that she was no longer my sister, emphasized my commitment to my marriage, turned down Dylan, and urged her to stay out of my life. After expressing my emotions, I hung up, activated call blocking, and apologized to my cat, who was hiding on the bed. Shortly after, it appeared that Emma got in touch with Dylan, and they both entered our old house forcefully. I wondered if they were trying to bring Dylan back to me. There's a proper ending now, but they got something wrong. They were yelling that they were my family, even though I just sold the land and had nothing to do with it. It's simple for those one. I sold the land and a building was constructed. This somehow made them think I must be the owner. Of course, the staff reported it to the police. The three of them were arrested because they had damaged several things in the building. Moreover, it was found out that they had been involved in marriage fraud for money in the past. It seems they'll be sent to prison together. I got questioned by the police too, but I easily showed I had no link because we were estranged. So, they let me go. While my husband and I were walking through the station, we heard shouting and looked over. There, we saw Emma and Dylan, looking completely changed. Luckily, they didn't see us. Their hair was messy, clothes were worn out, and they seemed nothing like the people I knew. Emma, especially, who always cared about makeup and fashion, looked totally different. They were probably being moved to another location. While watching them with a sense of sadness, my husband and I exchanged glances. Taking his outstretched hand, we left the police station. "Are you all right?" My caring husband gazed at me with gentle eyes. "I'm fine. I have you and our little one," I replied, patting my slightly protruding belly and smiling back. Inside me, a new addition to our family is developing. Money holds significance, but there's something even more valuable. That's the lesson I wish to impart to our child, with my husband beside me.